forecast for the beaches of Horry County. There is a moderate risk of rip currents for the beaches. Wind and wave conditions support stronger or more frequent rip currents. The surf will be around 4 feet, with breezy north winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. The ultraviolet index at noon indicates a low danger from the sun's rays for the average person. The lightning risk is very infrequent. Thunderstorms are only expected to be isolated or widely scattered in coverage. Atmospheric conditions do not support frequent cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. There is no risk of water spouts. The North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina climate summary for yesterday, April 5th, 2012. Yesterday's high temperature of 81 degrees occurred at 11:11 a.m. This high was 12 degrees above the normal high of 69. The high ties the previous record of 81 degrees, which was set in 2012. Yesterday's low temperature of 51 occurred at 11:59 p.m. This low was 2 degrees above the normal low of 49. The record low is 36 degrees, which was set in 1992. 0.45 inches of precipitation fell yesterday, which brings the monthly total to 0.49 inches. This is 0.08 inches below the normal amount of 0.57 inches for April. The total precipitation for the season now stands at 3.84 inches, which is 0.65 inches below normal. The total precipitation for the year is now 7.08 inches, which is 4.52 inches below normal. The normal high temperature for today is 69 degrees, and the normal low is 49. The record high for today is 78, which occurred in 1954, and the record low is 34, which occurred in 2004. Sunrise today is at 6:55 a.m. and sunset is at 7:40 p.m. The following messages for the following county: Coastal Brunswick County, North Carolina, and the following counties in South Carolina: Coastal Georgetown and Coastal Horry. Coastal flood advisory in effect from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. this evening. The National Weather Service in Wilmington has issued a coastal flood advisory, which is in effect from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. this evening. Location: portions of the immediate coast. Coastal flooding, high astronomical tides, strong winds and large wave action will combine to produce a period of minor coastal flooding. Timing: high tide this morning will be higher than normal, but water levels are expected to remain just below minor coastal flood levels. However, the evening high tide is expected to be higher, and minor coastal flooding is expected around uptime. High tide is around 7:30 a.m. and again around 8 p.m. Impacts: low-lying areas along the beachfront and near areas along marshes, tidal creeks, and other waterways. Low-lying roadways near the waterfront, such as Canal Drive and Carolina Beach, may also briefly flood this evening. A coastal flood advisory indicates that onshore winds and tides will combine to generate some flooding of low areas along the shore. The next 4 tides at Myrtle Beach will be a high tide at 7:31 a.m., a low tide at 1:49 p.m., a high tide at 8:02 p.m., and a low tide at 2:27 a.m. on Saturday. The next 4 tides at Windy Bay Entrance South Jetty will be a high tide at 7:45 a.m., a low tide at 1:56 p.m., a high tide at 8:18 p.m., and a low tide at 2:36 a.m. on Saturday. The beach water temperature is not available. Here are the 7 a.m. observations. In Myrtle Beach, light rain and fog were reported. The temperature was 46 degrees. The dew point was 39, giving a relative humidity of 76%. The wind was north at 14 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.79 inches and rising. In North Myrtle Beach, light rain was falling. The temperature was 48 degrees. The dew point was 45, giving a relative humidity of 87%. The wind was north at 9 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.78 inches and rising. Here are the weather conditions around the Carolinas. Rain was falling, with a temperature of 45 at Conway and 45 at Dwightville. At Columbia, fog was reported, with a temperature of 52. It was cloudy, with a temperature of 46 at Georgetown, 51 at Charleston, and 46 at Florence. At Wilmington, rain and fog were reported, with a temperature of 46.
The latest marine observations within the last 2 hours, as of 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At Frying Pan Shoals Buoy, the wind was northeast at 25 knots. Water temperature was 69 degrees. Wave height 7 feet. Wave period 7 seconds. Swell height 2 feet. Swell period 9 seconds. At Sunset Beach Nearshore Buoy, the wind was north at 17 knots. At Spring Maid Pier, the wind was north at 9 knots. At Edisto Buoy, the wind was north at 19 knots. Water temperature was 67 degrees. Wave height 6 feet. Wave period 7 seconds. Swell high 2 feet. Swell period 12 seconds.
Wet weather will come to an end today, lingering longest at the coast.